Okay. This is Office Hours, episode 2 of however many I do. So this is a live stream series that I've decided to start where I answer questions, hang out, and just help people with their problems as much as I can. And I try to do it Sundays, I think, but I might mess around today. This is only the second one. In the first one, we didn't have anybody join us, which is fine because I could talk forever. But I did ask for some seed questions, and I got one. So we're going to start off with that, and then maybe we'll just answer questions from Reddit. So if you're watching this after the fact, you'll maybe get some value out of it. So pull up Reddit. Just go to the r/videography subreddit, because it seems to have a lot of good questions, or at least a lot of common basic questions you might think to ask. So yeah, pull that up, and then what was the other thing? Oh, I wanted to pull up the YouTube so I can actually watch this. Wonderful, and that way if someone asks a question, I could read it on the computer, which will be easier to read than trying to read it on the tiny screen, because I'm just streaming with my cell phone, and it's actually not terrible quality considering how far we've come with streaming stuff. You don't have to set up. I have my ATEM right here, which I have the ATEM Mini. I just haven't hooked it up. But it's like all this stuff is now just replaced with a phone. Before it used to be that you'd have to have, I mean, you could do it with a webcam, but you had to do it through a computer, and now I guess YouTube has changed that policy where anybody can do it with a cell phone, which is amazing. So anyway, let's get on to questions. So the first question is from my cousin, Mike Wigger. Mike Wigger, JD. I think that means he's a lawyer, official lawyer. I don't actually know what the JD stands for, sorry, Mike. But he has a YouTube channel called Wigger Tech. I don't know if he's posted anything lately. I don't think it's come up on my YouTube algorithm. Let's see if we can find it. The Dad Nerd. That was another one he was doing. He might have changed the name to the Dad Nerd. And yeah, he's still posting videos, just not very often. 7 months ago and then 3 weeks ago. So yeah, you can go check it out. The Dad Nerd is his channel. Anyway, back to his question. His question is, for a new creative, what gear should they focus on first, and which gear should they not go cheap on? As a follow-up, what gear can you wait on and get later? That's a good question. And really, it kind of depends on what you want to do, because creative is such a broad spectrum. I think that obviously the first thing you should get is probably a computer if you don't have one, but like a good computer, because if you're going to try to edit photos or video and you don't have a good computer, you're going to have a really bad time, because for the longest time I edited on really cheap laptops and cheap computers, and I had a really bad time. It was bad. It was not a good time. I don't recommend it. And then I had my friend build me a custom PC, which at the time I thought was really expensive. It was $1,400. It was a top-of-the-line PC in 2014, and I'm still using it, so it's like 8 years old. And this thing is a beast. And when you think about how much work it's touched, like the ROI on $1,400 is just bonkers. And I'm getting ready to replace it, and the computer I'm looking at is $3,200, and so that's like the top of the line now. So in 8 years, inflation and the crypto bros have kind of destroyed the cost of computing technology. So that's not great, but if I can get another 8 years out of the next computer, I mean, that's $3,200 is a steal in my opinion. So, I mean, obviously we're gonna assume creative means, we'll go a couple different paths. Obviously, a good computer is the first thing you need. And then a camera, any camera, like you can use your cell phone camera, because now you can stream with your cell phone, which is just, like, if you had told me you could stream with your cell phone when I started doing this, like the first time I think I ever did a live stream was like 2012, and we had like racks of fucking equipment. Like we had so much stuff. And even then, That was with Matt Turner and Brock Rahm. Even then, it was like a ridiculously low amount of like new technology, like crazy gear, where people are like, that's so little stuff, but it's still like a carload full of stuff. And now you can do it, you know, like if I have a camera and I have this case and a laptop and a Wi-Fi connection, I could kind of stream from anywhere, or I could just use my phone, which is, it's not ideal, but for something like this where the quality doesn't need to be amazing, it works. Where was I going with that? I got lost on a tangent. Yes, okay, computer first, then camera, any camera. Use your phone if you have to start with. Cell phones are getting better. You just need to know the limitations of whatever the gear is. But then that said, I think audio is a big one, and that's something I want to get for this. I want to get maybe a Bluetooth microphone, like a Bluetooth lapel microphone, something just for slightly better audio than straight on. But in reality, I'm gonna buy a new computer soon, and then once I buy the new computer and get that all set up, then I'm gonna set the ATEM up to kind of permanently live with my computer desk set up, and then I'll put my real cameras into the thing and put a little more effort into this live stream, just a little bit, you know, have some lights or something. I mean, I guess I could light it now if I really wanted to, but the light looks fine, I think. That said, so yes, computer first, audio second, and then everything else you can kind of just get as you go. And that's so for YouTube video people. If you're making content, there's so much you can do with a phone, with an iPad. There's websites like Canva. If you're just creating content for, you know, your business, Canva's great, and you could use your phone to film stuff and take pictures of stuff, throw it in Canva, apply some templates and some things, and you know, you're kind of off to the races. But the one thing you definitely shouldn't cheap out on is audio, because this works right here. I'm, you know, touch away from the thing. But even if you're shooting like a medium shot and you're 5-6 feet away in an untreated room, it's gonna sound kind of shitty. Even this probably sounds not the best, but it's workable for low effort, for, you know, the 0 viewers I have. So that's what I would say. Get a good laptop, any camera, and then focus on audio, and then go from there. You can always use window lights, you can use lamps, you can get things like this, like a Young Nuo 360, that's what this is. It's got a built-in battery, which is cool. There are cheaper ones. God, what is the one that I have? It's called a Pavo tube. Nanlite, that's who makes it. Nanlite makes a Pavo tube. They're like $80. Again, battery's built in. It's a little smaller than this. But that's all you really need to like just get started. And if, you know, if $80 feels like a big swing, then get a lamp from Goodwill, put a bulb on it, and stick it, you know, somewhere that doesn't look stupid. You just move it around till it looks good. Easy. Okay, let's pull up some Reddit questions. Let's go find stuff on Reddit so that I have some things to answer and fill things up. Okay, this person says, how can I film something like Bo Burnham's Inside on my iPhone? I do stand-up comedy and recently have been getting more experimental with what I do, having more bits that seem involve weird sound effects and hip-hop beats. Think Reggie Watts. I wanted to do YouTube as a way to take my performances on stage, polish them up, record them off stage in a room. Do I need a Rode Go to capture the audio? Should my iPhone be enough? Also, what editing apps do y'all recommend? Okay, that's a big question. I think in this guy's case, I mean, if you're gonna take it to a computer anyway to edit, then I would probably try to find something not connected. If you're not connected to the phone, you're gonna get a little better quality. So if you can swing it, if you have a budget, I guess really the question comes down is what's your budget? Because the Bo Burnham thing, why it looks so awesome is there's a lot of lighting stuff. It's not expensive lights. There's a couple expensive lights, but a lot of it is just a lot of it. And then I think he shot on, I think it was like one of the Panasonic cameras. But he shot on like the Panasonic cameras, and then he just used like a lot of kind of like fun party lights, and then a couple like good big lights. So that's really the big thing. I think what sells the Bo Burnham thing so well is high quality audio first. So if this guy's doing beats and then he has the Rode Go, I feel like the quality mismatch is going to be noticeable. And that's something I notice even on rap albums and mixtapes, is that like the quality of the vocals is really, really low compared to the quality of the beats. And there's like bad compression. And so if it's musical comedy, I think you want to spend all of your money and get good audio. And I think that could be like an SM58 into, you know, a preamp that goes direct into a laptop and records. It's probably the cheapest way to do it, because an SM58 you could get used for like $50, I'm sure. Or you could even use maybe like one of those Yeti microphones. That might be better. And then just have good, again, like the first question, just have good audio, and then slowly add in all the kind of funky video effects. You can do a lot with like a cheap projector. And then other than that, so what editing apps do y'all use? You know, if you're trying to cheap out, you got all the stuff to buy, and because you really want a theatrical show, you start with DaVinci Resolve because it's free. I use Premiere because I'm a photographer and I need Lightroom and Photoshop anyway, so I figured if I'm paying for those two, I might as well just pay for it all. So that's what I know how to use. It's not that I love Premiere or I'm a Premiere fanboy by any means. It's just what I use. Because I learned on Sony Vegas, and a lot of my hotkeys in Premiere are based off Sony Vegas hotkeys, because I really liked, like there's one especially in Premiere, it's called Add Edit. In Sony Vegas, it's called Split. It just makes a cut where the playhead is, which I don't know why that's not just the default way to make cuts, because it's just, I just key map it to S, and so whatever the playhead is, I hit S, and now I have a cut. I don't know, like who gets out the razor blade tool, and that just feels clunky to me. And I know a lot of people like hone it in the program monitor. I don't do that. I just jump everything onto the timeline, and then I use Pancake Timelines, which if you're not familiar with Pancake Timelines, essentially you just have separate sequences, and you just dump all the raw footage on the bottom one, and then as you find stuff, you move it up a layer, and then you make kind of an assembly edit, and then you drag the whole thing, you move that up a layer, and so then you can go back through everything without having to hit Control-Z a bajillion times, and you can save old versions, which is really helpful when you get client notes that are like, can we try this, or can we try it with a different XYZ? You could keep that version, you just take the whole thing, move it to a new sequence, and then you have that old version when inevitably their terrible idea, the terrible notes they gave you, don't work out, and you have to go back, and you still have it. It's like no time lost off your back. So that's some recommendations there. Okay, what else do we got? Let's find some more Reddit questions for answering stuff and things. Let's see. I should have like pre-picked some. I'll have to write that down for next time. I mean, that's half the fun. I filmed it was a stock market thing. It's a company called Markle. We did like they had like a meeting for Berkshire, because I live in Omaha, and Berkshire Hathaway is like a big company. Markle's a company that's like, there's all these like financial holding firms that like saw what Berkshire did and are basically just copying that business model, and they're called value investors. And so when Berkshire meets, they often have like little satellite meetings for these things. And the guy said something, the CEO said something today that was really good. It was about how he's like, we're a company that makes mistakes, and he's like, I encourage, if you don't make mistakes, then you don't try stuff. So I'm here making mistakes, and I'm gonna learn and get better. And yeah, one of the things I'll do is have to write down some questions and not rely on a single LinkedIn post to get seed questions. But thanks, Mike, for chipping in a question. A camera around $450 without heating problems. GoPro. Done. It's not the best camera, but it is a camera, and it won't have heating problems. Or if you need like a cinema camera, you could probably get like an old Blackmagic camera for $450. Those probably won't overheat. Giving away distribution rights fee. Hi all, I've been hired to make an internal security video for a company, meaning I'll obviously be prohibited from distributing it on my website socials. I mentioned to the client that I might need to add a fee on for this, but I wasn't sure what to call it and how much it should actually be. I was thinking 10% of the overall labor costs. If it was up to me, I would say don't do that. Don't, because that's just clunky. Like, an internal security video for a company. Like, what is that footage? That's gonna be really fucking boring. What were you ever gonna use that for? Like, you're never gonna use that. So like, let's be honest. Like, you're just trying to get some extra money out of them. Just have a higher quote. Done. I could get it if it was like, if you're a wedding videographer and you wanted to, like, and you were shooting like a celebrity wedding, it's gonna be amazing, and they have all this money, and they're like, by the way, don't show this to anybody. Because you, like, it's got to be a good wedding, and you want your film to be like, look what I can do if you have a lot of money. Give me all that money. But for like a corporate internal video, there's no way that footage is going to be worthwhile. Like, don't waste your time. Don't piss off your client. Don't be hard to work with just because you think you can squeeze extra money out of them. Just charge more from the jump. Oh, that's what I think about that. Let's see. What else? Canon 60D sound quality. I have a bad feeling that a lot of my audio wasn't picked up when shooting yesterday on my Canon EOS 60D. I had a Zoom H4n mounted on the top of the camera, earphones hooked up, earphone jack as well. I forgot to listen to some of the audio for some scenes as it was a very busy shoot. It's my first time shooting this big of a project, so my head was spinning and clearly forgot things, which leads to my sinking feeling of not everything picking up. In some scenes, the camera was far away, and as a result, so was the audio recorder. If that didn't pick up sound for some scenes, would have my camera gone in just in case? No, the camera would have been dog shit audio. What's the threshold of distance of not picking up sound on the audio recorder and camera? Whatever this is, 3 feet, like max. I know I can monitor this, and first chance I get, initial. If anyone has a rough idea of this situation and could shed light, I'd appreciate it. Reshoot and hire a sound guy. If you have a big shoot, sometimes, especially if you're doing something big and it's like your first time going out on a big thing, it's okay to not make money on those big things because you see it as a learning experience. And so if it's a new type of project that you've never done before and you're kind of worried about it and your head's going to be thinking about a bajillion things, it's not a bad idea to hire somebody, even if that means you make no money. Because if you hire somebody who knows what they're doing that you can see, A, you won't fuck the project up and then you can get more work from that client. B, you'll see directly how to do it. And C, it'll look way more professional if you've got 2 of you and not just you with the recorder on the top. If nothing else, it's definitely hire people who know what they're doing. Just do it for free. That's my advice. Do stuff for free to learn how to do it, and then charge money, or charge more money than you think you. If it's that big of a project, charge more money and hire someone with that money, and you make money and they make money. And if that person tells you that's too much money that you're asking for, then you hire them anyway and you don't take a cut. I have a question last night. I was filming last night with a Weebill S and it spazzed on me twice. It went into sleep mode by itself and I had to reset it. Then it said access lock and none of the accesses were locked. I was in the middle of filming and it went limp. This is why I don't like gimbals. I don't trust them. I feel like every time I shoot with gimbals, it's not that they don't work. It's just that, like, if it doesn't work, there's not a lot of troubleshooting you can do. You can pull the batteries out and put them back in and hope for the best. But, like, if it's fucked, it's fucked. And then you're like, well, now I look like a fucking idiot. Like, I don't like drones for that reason. I don't like gimbals for that reason. Because you can't control it. Like, it's such a failure point that unless you've got like 2 of them, it can go bad for you, and then you look stupid. You look like you don't know what you're doing. That's not good. Like you're the impression of you. And there's a sound guy I work with a lot. His name's Mark Hoffman. He's been in the business a long time. But I asked him once why he brings all these pelicans when he's just booming and like one lob and a boom. And he's like, it's called show business. Like sometimes you have to show the business. And I'm like, it's fucking true. Like people, you know, you look more professional if you get more shit. So like maybe buy some extra pelicans and just carry them around. But then also, I mean, his pelicans are full of stuff that like, there's been times where like, oh, we're gonna do this, and he's like, I got a thing for that, and like pulls it out, a magic hat, because he's amazing. Mark Hoffman. If you need a sound guy in Omaha, Nebraska, or in the region, Mark Hoffman's your guy, guaranteed. Blue Collar Sky and Sound is the name of his company. He also does drone stuff, and he's very good at it. Highly recommend him. He's a great guy. He's fun to be on set with too. That's sometimes you work with like the old guys, and they're like, you ask them a question, and they're like, fuck you, kid. You know, Hoffy will tell you. He'll give you answers. Because he remembers what it was like to be a young kid who didn't know what shit was. How do I price an editing job? A local company has reached out to me for the purpose of creating some Facebook ad videos for their company. They said they have lots of photos and video from their events that they would like to use. How do I price a job that I will be editing only for a few small internet ads? You pick a price and go. That's really, if you don't know what to charge, just pick a number and be like, what about this? And the key there, if you have imposter syndrome, there's a couple tips that I've learned over the years. The first is from a photographer named Zach Arias. And his advice was to remember that you cannot afford to hire yourself. If you are, think about like, if you have a bathroom job, you know, you're going to replace a toilet or something, a plumber's going to charge you like $100, you know, like you have to have that sort of mentality. Like the plumber wouldn't hire $100 person. They would just do it themselves. But the same is also true. That's a bad analogy. But I mean, the message still stays the same, is that you can't afford to hire yourself. Like, think about this. People out there with money, and to them, X dollars is not a lot, but to you, X dollars might be. So put it that way. If you don't know any better, $25 an hour, I mean, I think at a fucking minimum, I wouldn't charge less than $25 an hour. Even if, you know, like you're brand new to it, I feel like $25 an hour is like the absolute floor. But yeah, so that's advice one. Advice two, I got from a guy named Mikey Elfers. He's been in a lot of bands. And he's got a podcast called Who's Zooming Who. Look it up. And he's in a band called Thirst Things First. Look that up too. It's really cool. If you like Devo, it's a lot like that. It's like, I don't know how to describe it. It's kind of crazy fucking music. But it's fun. It's fun and it's dancey. Anyway, but his advice was, when negotiating with promoters, they would ask their quote, and what he would say is, our normal quote is this, but because of this, we're negotiable on it. So this and this could be anything. So, you know, if you say like, well, my normal rate's $50 an hour, but because I like your business, I'm willing to be negotiable on that, or because I really like your pizza, or, you know, something like that, we can work something out. And that's if you just want the job super bad and you don't care if you make a lot of money on the job. And that's something I've used a lot of the times. And probably because I charge too little anyway, because I have mad imposter syndrome, even after doing this for 10 years. 9 times out of 10, I would say, when you say my normal rate is X, the client will happily pay X. And the, you know, 10% of the time that's not it, they'll come back with their actual budget or a lower number. Or, you know, they'll just kind of give you some bullshit, and you can kind of know that fucking red flag client, you don't want to do that work anyway. So that's my advice there. $25 an hour at a minimum, or throw a number out and just say, but because of any fucking reason, I'd be willing to negotiate with you on that. Camera suggestions for a knob. Get a Canon. They're the easiest to use. That's... hi, videography. I know nothing about taking pictures, recording video other than the odd photo on my phone. However, I just got a new puppy and have a few hobbies I would like to take good photos of, and also high quality. Does a camera do both? Need to buy a video camera. I'd like to around $500 to $1,000, including lens. Like to have a good resolution close-up macro shots while being decent. So in the videos, mostly be still shots rather than rapid movement. Then yeah, just get a Canon DSLR. I know the Canons, you could say, I like the Canon DSLRs for photos, I like the Sonys for video, but the Canons are much, much easier to use, especially for a new user. The menu system is way more intuitive, the user experience is way more intuitive, and there's a lot of Canon users out there. You can buy used gear. There's a lot of Sony users out there too, but they tend to buy the good gear to start with, because in my experience, Sony users tend to be people that started with another system and then moved to Sony. And so when they move to Sony, they buy all the good gear. So the good gear doesn't go for sale used near as often as the good gear from Canon. Especially now that Canon is ending like DSLR style cameras with the mirror, and all the EF glass is kind of, it's not going away because the adapters work really well. But I think more people are going to start adapting to the R lenses, and so those EF lenses will still be available, and you can get like a Rebel, I don't know, T7 or whatever the range, that 500 pound to 1,000 pound, whatever you could best afford, and then you can get a used macro lens for like $300. Done. Let's see. Oh. How are videos supposed to be sent? I send them via Google Drive. Best screen recording options. I know QuickTime does it. I use my graphics card has a screen recording thing, and that works very well, so that's what I use. Let's see. How much to charge for use of personal equipment? I recently landed a contract job whereby the employer has asked me to use my own equipment. Cameras, audio recorder, editing software, computer, and charge them a rental fee. Only thing is, I have no idea what a fair fee is to charge. It would be an absolutely wild guess. No, it wouldn't, because there are rental companies. Go price out what your kit would be to rent for a day and charge them that. And if you feel guilty about it, charge them a little less, but you shouldn't feel guilty about it. Just charge them that rate, because that's what they would be paying. Or the other way to do it is you could, I forget what the term is. There's a term for that, where you're using your own gear and they give you a something. It's like an honorarium, but it's like to buy gear. It's for the use of your gear and to buy more gear for the job. But then you still own the gear after the fact. The other thing I would also be weary about is if you're using your own gear, I think you're technically an independent contractor, so look into all that legal mess that might happen. Let's see, what else do we get? Where do I find music videographers NYC? Oh my god, that's probably the easiest fucking... I'm having a hard time finding indie videographers to pay for music video shoots. Is there a specific website where a lot of videographers go to get hired, like Fiverr or BeatStars? I'm trying to avoid the Craigslist flow. I want to hopefully book someone for consistent quality work. Any tips? I don't know how you have that question if you need consistent work, because that implies that you work for a record label or you're in a band. Are you not aware of the local music scene? Just look for like the most popular local New York bands. It's New York City. Like there is no shortage of people that know how to work a camera there. But if this is to anybody else, look at your local scene. Who has made music videos? Who made the music videos? Like there's probably only a handful of people that like make good music videos for low budget bands. If you're in Omaha, Nebraska, Simon Clark, Aaron Gum, Tony Bonacci. Tony and Aaron work together a lot. Yeah, those would be my three people I'd recommend. I don't think I would shoot a music video, just because I don't know. It just doesn't seem like my kind of style. With like music videos now are like a lot of quick cuts. And it's not really for me. I don't like doing that. And I don't really know how. Like I could do it, but like I wouldn't feel like it was my style. So anyway, best camera for filmmaking under $750. If you have a smartphone made in the last 3 years, that's going to be your best choice. Spend the $750 on lighting and audio. What camera should I buy? That question comes up a lot. Use your cell phone, buy audio, buy lights. And maybe a gimbal for your phone. Moving to DSLRs from ENG cameras. I recently received a content producer offer from a company and will be starting there in about a month. I have worked 6 years in live television broadcast, both news and sports. For this reason, my only experience camera operation has been big over-the-shoulder ENG cameras, Sony XDs. Moving to this new job, I'll be using more traditional cameras for my shoots, and I was wondering if anyone had tips or what the big differences will be going from ENGs to DSLRs. The big thing is you can't handheld. You can try, it's gonna look shitty. Even with the ones that have the internal stabilization, it's not gonna look great. Like, compared to the ENG cameras, it's just not gonna work. Get yourself a monopod, because that'll be closer to what you were like, or get a shoulder rig, and that'll be kind of back, it'll be a little more stable, and you'll be kind of familiar with the form factor. So that would be the big thing. Second to that is you're gonna have to learn how to do audio, because the audio is very different. You probably want an audio recorder and, you know, a good shotgun mic and a lav at the very least. Selling Sennheiser G3s for Rode Wireless Go 2. I run a drone video production company. About 15% of the work we do is ground videography. My videographers are now using the Rode Wireless Go 2s and they seem to work well. I have 2 sets of G3s, which I only use a couple times per year. Typically rely on my videographer's kits and only bring my gear as a backup. One videographer has the Go 2s and the Sony equivalent of the G3s as a backup, while the other has the Go 2s and will be interested in buying one of my sets. In terms of what we shoot, interviews, commercial-like stuff, performances. Subjects typically don't turn away. When hired for these gigs, it's unlikely that I am the only videographer on set. I'm usually the director. So is Go 2 sufficient for one videographer gigs or emergencies? Is the reduced range a concern? Is it better to play it safe and keep the sends? Definitely don't want just one pair of mics would be enough. Honestly, I feel like the amount you'll get for the G3s is not worth just keeping them as backups. I would just keep those. And I know, like, I would sell one if someone wants to buy one. Sell that one and then keep the other one. Like, they come, G3s are so small, they come in like a little pouch. Just put it in your car and make sure your batteries are charged. Like, I don't know. I'd rather have a backup system that doesn't work on whatever the go-to, if it's Bluetooth or line of sight or however it's working. I think I would trust a Sennheiser a lot better. But also, get a boom mic, because lavs sound shitty. Like, you have to mix them to sound good, whereas a boom mic sounds good out of the fucking box. So, I got my first videography gig. Now how much should I charge? Good question. So after months of mastering my gear and software and finally having a respectable amount of cameras, mics, and editing suite, I don't know what that means, I finally felt confident enough to start promoting my skills in my local town. A business run by 2 pals of mine wants to showcase their new electric bike venture, and I'll be using my drones and action cams as well as my DSLR iPhone to shoot some footage for them. It's looking to probably be a 2-3 day shoot with multiple locations and some post-production, obviously. I was thinking, as they are friends and it's a new business, I don't want to charge a huge amount, but then again, they are getting the benefit of multiple pieces of equipment that I know nobody locally can offer on one package. That seems like a pretty simple package to offer. My estimate is 1,200 euros for everything, but from what I've read elsewhere, that seems low. What say you, videography? 1,200 euros would cover the shoot day, maybe? Like, but the editing, if you're shooting with like 5 different fucking cameras, bro, you're gonna have so much footage. Like, you're gonna be editing for weeks. Like, $1,200 is not enough. Like, walk back, get deliverables, specific deliverables, make a storyboard, and don't shoot anything until you have those 2 things, and then you'll have a better idea of what to charge, what to capture, and how to edit it. And if you don't just go hose it down with 5 fucking cameras at the same time, then that €1,200 is a reasonable thing, because you could do the shoot in a day and you could do the edits in half a day, because you'll have 12 very specific shots that you put in a very specific order that someone has already signed off on, so they're happy with. I don't just go shoot and hope for the best. That's just, you're just asking for failure, and you're asking for a lot. Because if you're just hosing it down for 2 or 3 days and then just editing whatever after the fact, you 5 to 10 grand probably, because you're going to be editing for a long time. Okay, let's see here. We're at 35 minutes. That's a good time. Let's find one more to end on. Black and white camera. Let's see, what else? What if we just ask? My mouse makes a squeaky noise because I spilled tea on it once. Let's see, top questions past week. Oh, can I do questions? Can you sort by questions? There's probably a way. Find some questions to answer. A lot of critiques. People post critiques. I always thought that'd be a good way to get like views. If you just like posted critiques of everything, that would be a good way to build up like a bunch of views. Black hat views, black hat marketing tips. Just post a bunch of forums looking for critiques. Let's see, what else? We'll just click on this beginner tab and see if we can find. Already answered that one. I need to work at reading and talking at the same time. It's not easy to do. It's a skill, which is why I like teleprompting, like reading teleprompters. That's a skill too. I'm always amazed when people can just knock it out first try. And they're like, what, is that hard? Like, yeah, it's hard for a lot of people. Let's see. First timer here. Looking for lightweight alternative for Sony. How can I improve this gym testimonial? Looking for a good question to end on. That last question was a good one. I should have ended there. But I don't think ahead. So, best camera for car videography. GoPro. I don't know. If you only have one. Here's another how much to charge. I feel like that's like maybe the most common question. So let's take a look at what this guy has to say. Hello, I'm curious how much I should charge my friend for doing an Instagram post for his barbershop. I would say I'm maybe a little higher than a beginner, but no means super skilled with a camera yet. I know the basic camera settings and know somewhat work with lighting, still getting better with lighting. And I edit videos for YouTubers, so I'm fairly decent with that. This is my first ever paid client, and I'm not sure what a fair range is. Don't want to overcharge him since we are friends and I'm still on the newer side, but don't know what's fair for me. Please help. Ask him what he wants to spend. That's it. If he's your friend, he'll tell you what his budget is. And if he's like kind of a shithead and he like lowballs you, but it's still a number that's way more than you would have asked for, great. If it's not enough, it's getting paid to practice for where you're at. It's not a bad place. That's, not a bad way to go about it. But like, if he's your friend, he'll know what he wants to spend on it, and it might be a lowball offer, and you can kind of maneuver it, negotiate from there. Because maybe it's just like, Instagram posts shouldn't take you long to do. You could probably film it in less than an hour, and then edit it in less than an hour, to make like a really basic thing. And you could just even negotiate just a haircut, if that's, or you could be like, give me cash and then also cut my hair. It wouldn't be a terrible deal for 2 hours of work. That's That's what I would do. If it's your friend and it's like your first client, don't really expect to make a ton of money, and just be like, hey man, like what would you like to spend? And if it's way higher than you thought it was, you just do more work. You'd be like, oh, for that I could do X, Y, and Z, you know? And if it's less than you were hoping for, then you say that. Like, you just need to learn to be transparent and respect yourself. I know that's like a hard thing to do, but you don't go to like Jimmy John's and be like, how much is a sandwich? You know what I mean? Like, you just, that the price is the price. So sometimes, like, at some point you'll have to take on, you're a business, then the price is the price. That's really all I could tell you. Or you could take advice from earlier, from Mr. Mikey Elfers. You say, normally my rate is X, but because we're buds, I'm willing to negotiate with you on that. But I would just ask them what their budget is first. So yeah, there you go. Office Hours, episode 2. Good 40 minutes. We answered a bunch of questions. Hopefully you got something out of it. If not, well, you just have to join us live next time and ask me a question yourself. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. I gotta figure out how to turn this fucking thing off.